All right, I gave an extra 3 minutes. That's about all I can take because I'm really just excited to get started, to be honest. For a few different reasons. One, these seminars are really important to us, Esri, to bring value to you, our users, about what's new with ArcGIS, and every one is built off of feedback from you guys from previous years, right? So as part of this, there will be a survey that we fill out that's sent to you. We'd love for you to fill that out. But let's get right into it. So welcome to today's seminar. I am Matt Deal, and with me is Tom Schwartzman. And again, this is sort of officially for the Boston Regional Office, which handles New England and New York. And I'm out of the Boston Regional Office. Just a little bit about me first. I'm an account manager for the state team. My greatest wish is that we could have done these in person. Again, bringing the communities together is a big part of the overall experience, and I think very important. But this has been an interesting experience to see from the eyes of some other users, which is one's actually my daughter, how she's using technology to connect and chat with her friends at school. She's only in 3rd grade, but how she's been able to easily adopt technology given this change. And it's pretty crazy to see the different mindset she has with picking up new technology to be able to still do the things she wants to do, which is talk to her friends, collaborate and work on projects for school, even have school meetings over a different environment. So it's been fascinating for me recently to see the adoption of technology in new ways for different folks. So that's a little bit about me. Again, I'm in the Boston office. And Tom, do you mind introducing yourself?
Sure, Tom Schwartzman here, and I work with Matt out of the Boston Regional Office. And I'm a solution engineer, which I think of as someone who is on the technical side and really tries to help customers use our technology to the fullest. And really happy to be here presenting to help you with just that goal, really, to help you amplify to make, really use what you have and use it well. So I'm happy to get started. Sorry we're virtual, but happy we have so many people joining us from all over.
Great. Thanks, Tom. All right. Before we begin, please note your line is muted so we can't hear you speak. The seminar is being recorded, and we'll distribute this in a few days along with a survey. The survey is important. It's not just for this being a virtual seminar. If you came to the in-person seminar, we'd also give a survey. And that's extremely important to fill out because we want to know what you want to see next go around. How can we improve either the material or the content or just how things are run? So it's really important that you fill out that survey just to let us know also how us presenters are doing. How could we make it better? This is going to end up being my biggest virtual presentation I've done, so I'm kind of nervous about that, to be a little honest. But we're trying to make this still fit that sense of community we have with our users, and one way we're going to do that is with polls. So we're going to have a few questions during the presentation today, and I really encourage you to participate. So we'll get to know a little bit about you and how you're using our technology and how we can respond to that. So again, if you have any questions, please use the chat feature. It should be in the bottom of the Zoom window feature for you, and one of our moderators will get back to you. So our moderators for this seminar, we've got Sarah Lynn. She's in our global business development. She's an event specialist on that team. We've got Adam Carnow, who's one of our community evangelists, and Harry Moore, solution engineer out of our California office. So they'll all be watching that chat window, seeing questions as they come in. And we do want to make note that the content today is an abbreviated version of what we'd be doing in the in-person user seminars that we were doing just recently. But you can see it's still a packed agenda, right? We're going to cover what's new with Pro, what's new with online, what's new with story maps and the solution templates. We're going to take a break, sort of about at the halfway point, a short break for just question and answers. So not really a break, but a question and answer time for you guys. And then we're going to focus on some specific workflows that you can implement on a short timeline. And that's going to be what we call this ArcGIS in action. So that's going to be a lot of demos of various parts of our technology in specific sort of areas to see how they could respond to the needs of those departments. All right, so before we get started, how about our first poll question, just to get a better understanding of who's in the audience today. All right. So I'll just give a moment or two for this first question. Thank you for everyone that's responding. And I'll share the results in just a moment once we get a few more people to vote, or the voting slows down. Looks like quite a few people are still inputting answers.
It's like popcorn. Keep going until you stop hearing the pops.
All right, we're right at the 1 minute mark for the polling, and it looks like they stopped rolling in, so I'm going to end the polling and just share the results so far so we can see. So yeah, that's a pretty good breakdown of I think what we typically get in our face-to-face. A lot of state and local users for sure, but it's interesting to see some of the other mix of folks in here too. So thank you so much for everyone that responded. Really helps us get a feel for who's here. A lot of federal users, which is interesting as well. All right, thank you. All right, so moving on, I want to talk a little bit about the theme of today. So amplify your GIS is the theme of this seminar, and we're familiar with the definition of amplify as it relates to something becoming larger or greater, you know, like the ripples in a pond when something is dropped into it, or certainly when we think of increasing the strength of sound, right? Amplify something, amplify sound waves. It might not seem like this term is applicable to GIS, but it is a sort of the standard industry term, technology industry term of making something bigger, greater, or strengthening it, right? And that's what we wanted this particular seminar to be about. But why are we here? Well, we're here to make you more successful with our technology. And we do that with all of our Esri user seminars, regardless of the theme. So we're here to help you discover what's new with ArcGIS, get inspired, and learn how to be more effective. And we wanted to provide some sense of normalcy just with the condensed format, and also with special attention paid to the new offerings that can help you respond. So again, a lot of what you're going to see today is not just standard demonstrations of our products, but how everything works together to inspire you to do more with GIS. Before we get into that, the specific products, let's talk about and review our product strategy. So the focus of our product strategy has been on GIS and our products, which support the GIS community and of course the rapidly growing online mapping community. And in recent years, we've opened up ArcGIS to developers and making it easy for them to extend and build on our platform. We're also creating new kinds of systems. These are what we call geo-enabled systems. These are like independent solutions that build on and work with your GIS, but they focus on very specific workflows and capabilities needed by a specific user group, and then delivered via an easy-to-use experience. So we'll talk about a few of those in a little more detail later. We refer to all of our work collectively as the Esri Geospatial Cloud. It's available both as a software as well as a software as a service. And the idea here is that anyone could be a GIS user. So as you amplify your GIS for your community itself, you utilize any of these products to meet those individual needs. A critical concept to understand is that ArcGIS is a comprehensive platform. It's open and services based, and it's distributed and extendable. The platform not only supports those large organizations or teams, but also individuals. And now here's a bit about those geo-enabled systems. If you've been working on any of the response efforts lately, you may have seen Hub and Business Analyst infographics. But I also want to mention that there's other systems that we call geo-enabled, which are intended for those niche audiences. So certainly there's community engagement through what we call Hub, but there's also indoor mapping delivered through this thing we call Indoors, and urban planning through a product we call Urban. All of these systems are standalone and can be implemented with or without integration with your enterprise GIS. All right, so let's get started with what's new in ArcGIS. And first up, we're going to talk about Pro. So Pro is widely used and broadly adopted now. We've made many improvements like parcel management tools, some interactive suitability modeling. You can see some of the new things listed here in this chart. But you can always follow what's coming next by going to ArcGIS Pro Roadmap on GeoNet. So if you want to see what's happening in the immediate next release or being thought about later on, there's a lot of good information on things that are being requested to be built, when that might be happening. But that roadmap is extremely important. You can always follow that on GeoNet. And of course, ArcGIS Pro can be extended in a variety of ways with new analytic tools. So these are tools that integrate very focused capabilities into your desktop with extensions like Image Analyst, Spatial Analyst that a lot of people are familiar with. There's data interoperability and data reviewer, which I think are becoming more common. And last year, when we did the user seminars, we talked about Locate XT, a very new one, which lets you discover and extract geocoordinates and place names from other critical information, like from unstructured data and text, and allow them to be easily placed on a map. So again, we continue to innovate and create new extensions as well. So the features and improvements of ArcGIS Pro 2.5 make workflows faster and ensure data quality. They also allow you to work and share more efficiently. So Pro is the next step forward and ahead of everything else. For those of you using Pro, I think you'll appreciate what's new in this latest version. And for those of you who aren't yet users, Tom is going to show you how you can amplify your GIS. All right, Tom, do you mind going into the Pro session?
All right. Yeah, so let's start here in the Pro Startup screen, and you may be familiar with this. It's where you can open up projects that you may have worked on recently or have on your hard disk or such. You could start a new project that's based on, say, a map or a scene or even a blank project. But one thing you may not know about is the ability to actually select another project template. You can create project templates or get ones that are shared with you. And the advantage of that is it really lets you start with things in place for you. And I'll show you what I mean. I'm going to first look for one. I can look on my hard disk, as you can see, but I'm logged into my portal, and you can see that maybe in the upper right here. I'm logged in. And I'm going to go to my portal to some group that I'm in, and I'm going to see that there are some templates here. So we'll pick one to base a new project on. And the nice thing is that when what's nice about these templates is they have things loaded. For instance, they may have database connections loaded, they may have layouts, styles, symbology, folder connections, all those things. It's a great way to get a jump start on a project, not having to bring in all these different components over and over again. All right, let's switch from that to another project I've loaded. You can see I have multiple instances of Pro running. Here we are in Naperville, Illinois, and we're looking at the water system here. And I want to focus on tools that improve efficiency and ensure data quality. And we're going to focus on the fire hydrants in this water system, which are obviously an important part, not only of the water system, but in terms of public safety as well. Let me zoom in a little bit. And you can see the hydrants here on the map, and they're labeled with their asset ID. Let me go ahead and bring up the attribute table for this. And I tell you what, I want to show you a tool that's new at 2.5, and it's just this find and replace tool. Makes it really easy just to find some text in this table. For instance, if I'm looking for a specific asset ID, I can just type it in, and you can see it just took me right to that record here in the table. In fact, it found 11 records with that text, and I could cycle through those if I want. It also lets me control how that search is done. So it could be a case-sensitive search, or look for whole field or start a field, that kind of thing. And I can also do replacements. So for instance, if we were changing the naming scheme of these hydrants, these assets, from beginning with a prefix of, say, FH, and I want to change it to HYD for hydrant, I can go ahead and ask it to replace all of those in the table, and you'll see not only in the table it will update, but since the map is using those asset IDs for labels, we'll see the map update as well. Okay, so that's done, and we also see that reflected on the map. So that's just a really great and easy way to do that kind of find and replace, where before you might have to do a calculation, a little bit more work. All right, let's add a feature to this. I need to create a new hydrant. So I've brought up my edit ribbon, and I'm going to hit the create features button here. Now you'll notice on the right, I have these things here, some different fire hydrant types. And these are feature templates that are helpful because they let me preset attributes for the more common combinations of different hydrants that I might put down. And you can build these however you want and have as many as you want. I'm going to actually use this one here called Hydrant with Service Line. It's a little bit different. It's something called a group template. And the thing about a group template, it lets me add features to multiple feature classes at once. So in this one, I'm going to add both the service line, the pipe, and the hydrant itself in one edit operation. I don't have to do two edit operations. So I'll do that, and I'll just put it in here. And you can see how I put the pipe in as well as the hydrant. Now, I want to focus on attributes. And I want to talk about a couple different things here. And one is something called contingent values. You're probably familiar with the idea of a domain or a pick list that you can set up. And here you can see I have a domain for a manufacturer and also for this nozzle diameter. But what contingent values lets us do is tie those domains together, build a relationship between them to make them smarter. So I can show you that by clicking, let's say, this manufacturer, American Darling, and I get, I don't know, 8 or so different options for the nozzle diameter, different sizes. But if I were to change that to, say, this other manufacturer, Corey, now that list is much shorter because Corey doesn't make those bigger sizes. And this is really helpful because it lets us make sure that the quality of that data is there, that I don't put bad data in. Okay, so that's contingent values. The other thing I want to focus on is something called attribute rules. Now, attribute rules do some work for us, and what they've done here is they've filled in our asset ID and our service territory. And they use the Arcade scripting language, and if you're not familiar with that, the Arcade scripting language is a robust scripting language that you see throughout the ArcGIS platform. You see it in ArcGIS Online, you see it in Portal for ArcGIS, the JavaScript API. You see it here in Pro, and it can be used for things like symbology, labeling, calculations, all kinds of things. Now, in this example, for service territory, this field here where it says north, what the attribute rule has done is it's actually queried this underlying polygon layer. The different colors you see represent the different service areas of this town, and it's found that I'm in the north service territory, and it's filled that in for me. And likewise with the asset ID, it's gone to the database to get the next unique value for asset IDs, and it's populated that field for me. And that's really helpful because it ensures data quality. It gives, my editor doesn't have to do that. They shouldn't even have to do that. Now, attribute rules are akin to, if you're an ArcMap user, something called the attribute assistant. This even takes it further, I think. And these can run when you add a new feature, when you edit a feature, when you delete a feature, and they can run to do calculations like we're doing here, and also do validations as well. And as the Arcade scripting language gets more powerful, these attribute rules will get more powerful as well.
All right, so you were given a sense of some of these new editing capabilities, and now let's take a look at some of the new capabilities with visualization. And to do that, let's take a look at some crime data inside of Pro.
All right, thanks, Matt. So this map is Washington, D.C., and the polygons with the black edges that you see are police service areas. Now, I also have some crime data. Let me turn that on. There's about 35,000 crimes here, and that's really too much to make sense of. So I want to talk about a new way we can actually visualize this data, and that's something called feature binning. Now, you enable feature binning. Well, let me describe it. Feature binning allows us to overlay areas or polygons on the map and represent counts or other statistics about the features inside those areas on the map. And you enable it by this geoprocessing tool where you specify the layer and the bin type, and there are a couple different bin types, as you can see, and then any other statistics you want besides the count of features, like an average or a sum of, say, damage or fatalities or something like that. Now, I've already enabled it for this layer, so let's go ahead and turn it on. Okay, so you can see I've chosen these hexagons, and the dark blue represents a higher count of crimes. These are dynamic, so I could actually change the bin size if I want. And as I zoom in, you'll see also the bin size will change. There we go. And the nice thing also is these the bins honor things like, say, a definition query. So while I'm looking at all crimes right now, I might choose to look at just theft from auto, and you can see how the bins update, which is nice. All right, and then also there's a setting here for binning that when you zoom in, you can have it just draw the points themselves, and you can see those points here. Now, let's symbolize those points, and let's use the unique value based on the offense type. So we'll go here and we'll pick the field offense. And you can see in my legend that I just get these, and on the map, of course, that I get these, pastel colored points, but those aren't the symbols I want. So I could actually go in and obviously I can say, well, what's the arson symbol? I think I have one of those. Yep, I do. Let's use that one. Right, but I don't want to do that for everyone. That's sort of, it'll take too long. So let's use a new tool at 2.5, Pro 2.5, that is matching a layer symbology to a style. I'll take this layer, this crime instance layer, and based on the offense field, I'll go to a style, and if there are any symbols with the same name as what we see in the offense field, it will match those up for us. So with one click here, you'll see on the right, on the left, and on the map that I've matched all those symbols in one go. Really helpful, I think. Okay, now these points have a time component, and one way we could look at the time component is with, say, a chart called a calendar heat chart. I'm just going to specify the date field and how I want it symbolized. And what we have now is a chart that is giving us information about the time things happen. So hour of day across the bottom, day of the week on the side, and the darker colors represent, as before, the more crimes. And we can see that there's a lot of crime here on Monday and Tuesday. But also, one thing we can do is we can filter that down as well. So let's go again to theft from auto. And this is just going to update itself. And you can see how now the theft from auto distribution is different. In fact, a lot of the theft from auto is reported at 8 or so in the morning, probably when people go out to their cars to go to work and realize something's happened. Okay, let's take this out, clear out our definition query. We're going to close that. Let's step back and take a focus on the police service areas. Okay. Excuse me. Now, these police service areas, I want to see them by, say, a count of crime or crime type. And to do that, I would typically do something like overlay the points and the polygons and do some summary statistics by crime type, et cetera. And that's a couple geoprocessing steps to do. And I do it maybe weekly or monthly, whatever it is, and I don't want to have to repeat that. And I actually have done it for this particular data set. And you can see the steps that I've done here in the history of my geoprocessing. And there's some joining and pivoting and such. But what's nice here at 2.5 is I can select, say, I don't need that one. I can select some of the things in my history, and I can just right-click and add it right to a model. Models are really helpful because they help document what you did. They can be run at any time, and you can share them with other people. So just like that, I've been able to create a model from things that I did step by step. I could export this model to a Python script either here, or I could right-click here and save it as a Python script there. So that's really, really helpful. And if Python is something you're interested in, you probably like the fact that now in Pro 2.5, we can create and edit Jupyter Notebooks right from inside of Pro. And if you're not familiar with Jupyter Notebooks, it's a great way to interactively work in Python. It gives us access to all the Esri and other Python libraries like ArcPy, the ArcGIS API for Python, any other Python libraries you might use. And right from within Pro, I can actually run this Python code step by step, which is nice. You used to have to run those outside in a browser, the Python Jupyter Notebooks, but now right inside of Pro, so that's a big help. Now I'm going to take a quick side trip here that Matt doesn't know about. I do, just because we're talking about geoprocessing, I do just want to mention that related to the COVID-19 pandemic, we have released some geoprocessing tools that tie into a hospital impact model, the CHIME model from the University of Pennsylvania. So you can find this. We'll talk more about resources for Hub, but this gives you a set of geoprocessing tools to run this model, to enter the parameters around this model, and to get to information about predictions around hospital usage in terms of beds and such. So I just wanted to make sure you knew about that. That's a Python front end to the underlying model, and all that is wrapped up here in this bit you can download. Okay, let me go back. And let's go back to our, let me close these windows, our DC map. And now let's symbolize these crime incidents, these police service areas based on that crime information. And in this case, I'm not going to use, say, a color ramp where it'd be light to dark or something. Let's use this new charting symbology at 2.5, and we'll make some pie charts. And in those pie charts, maybe we'll put some different crime types. So maybe theft from auto, burglary, robbery. Okay, so you get that nice pie chart for everyone. We can modify these pies such that right now they're all the same size. We could make them a variable size depending on the number of incidents in each area. We could also make them 3D to make them a little bit prettier. So really a lot of control over that, which is nice. Now, there's also a temporal component to, excuse me, to the crime information that we summarize in these police service areas. So while I wait for this to render here, you can see the different police service areas again. The colors represent the number of crimes, and now I've actually put a time slider on here, and I can actually slide through and go week by week, which is nice to get a sense of how things are changing week to week. Also, there's been improvements at 2.5 to the animation framework that have allowed us to create this nice extrusion video, which I'm going to show you. Now, this is looking at crimes through the year for both property, for people, and then for vehicles in those police service areas. So just another great way to be able to visualize where things are happening.
All right, awesome, Tom. So I'm sure some of you are wondering what else is new with sharing. So Tom, can you show us what's new with some of those new features that I think are going to really impress people?
Yeah, well, one thing, you may need to share or want to share this map. And on this share ribbon, we have a lot of options. And one of them is to actually package up this map and to share it with other people. So you can see this GP tool to create a map package, and I could upload that to my portal, and then I could share it with other people there, or I could save it to a file. That's going to gather up all the information about this map and make it available to someone else. So that's a great way to do it. You could also package up the whole project if you wanted to, and give that whole project to someone as well. Now, often we need to have output, so we've always had the ability to create layouts. You can see all these different page sizes that we have, and you can import a layout file, which is sort of a design of a layout. But new at 2.5 is this import layout pull down, and it gives us access to a gallery of different layouts. It's an easy way to be able to see these different layout designs that you have in the gallery. These first 3 rows or first 12 that you see on my screen actually come with the software. And the nice thing is you can add to or remove from that gallery, and you can put this gallery in a place where maybe all your coworkers are using it, so you all have access to the same map templates or layout templates. So let's go ahead and pick one that I added. I built this and added it. And all I need to do here is just tell it which map to put in here. So we'll put our DC map. And you can see that just like that, I've got a map that is designed by someone and ready to be exported or shared or printed. So let's talk about that. I'm going to go to the share ribbon and let's talk about printing. So the printing, it used to be a dialog, and now it appears as a pane on, which is nice because it means it runs in the background now, which is nice. And we also have access to more characteristics of our printers without having to dig into the menus. And if I were to say, need to tile this, I could get a sense of how it would be tiled if my printer can't support large paper. This shows me how it would be tiled, so that's nice. And then in terms of exporting, let's start with PDF. We have some new options around PDF, and those around security, the ability to put passwords on your PDF file. And we also have a new file type, AIX. This is an Esri format, Adobe Illustrator Exchange format. And this pairs well with the Maps for Adobe Creative Cloud add-in for Adobe Creative Cloud that is a free add-in from Esri. So any graphics professional who uses Adobe Illustrator and has that plugin can bring this file directly in, and it puts it, layers it well for them to work with it really easily. Okay, one more thing I want to show around layouts, and that is a new functionality around reshaping graphics on the layout. So we're looking at a map of the Nile. You see that the text that I have here, this text box, it's a little bit hard to read. It overlaps the geography. So I'm going to reshape this. I'm going to select it. And when I right click, I'm going to choose to edit its vertices. And I get this vertex editing toolbar, may be familiar to you. It's similar to the one we use when we edit features. And before I add any vertices, I'm going to hover over the left edge, and I'm going to right click and choose that I want to change the segment from a straight line to a curve. And now let's add some vertices to reshape it. So let's put this, say, here, and maybe we'll put another one here. Let's swing this up a little bit. And just like that, with a few clicks, I'm able to reshape that and make this a much better cartographic product.
All right, thanks, Tom. See, normally when we do these, there's some breaks where there's some applause for what we've seen. So Tom, thank you for some of that. It's weird doing it this way. We don't get to hear that applause, but I know that it looked like there's some questions coming through and people really excited about what they saw. So you saw a number of new enhancements there, right? Here's some of them: find and replace, feature binning, match by attribute, right? And what about geoprocessing history and Jupyter notebooks? So what does it mean? It means Pro really makes those workflows faster and ensures data quality and allows you to work more efficiently. So all these are there. So I'm sure some of you had some of these that you really want to go after and learn more about. So it's all there and ready for you. Consider how all of this makes ArcGIS Pro the go-to desktop for what you want to do with visualization and advanced analysis. So we're going to go to our next question, and of course this one's going to be about Pro. And let's go to the second question here. And simple yes, no question. Are you using ArcGIS Pro? Normally this would be the situation of raise your hand if we were face-to-face, but we could do it this way, I think, pretty efficiently. I'm going to give folks a moment or two to answer this question. Just a few more seconds here. There are a lot of replies still rolling in. All right, we're right at 1 minute. I'm going to go ahead and end the polling and tally that up. It's interesting. So it's for this particular group, we're right at about 50-50, which I find interesting. Yes and no for this. It's pretty interesting to me. It's different everywhere, right, with the different mix of folks we have, and this is certainly a large group, which I trust. So I do want to ask one other follow-up question to that, which are the reasons you choose not to, or that you are using Pro. So if you don't mind answering this follow-up question, and again, I'll give a few moments for that. And this question here is actually multiple choice. So if there's more than one reason, go ahead and answer. And it doesn't look like people are answering, so I might have done something wrong there. I'm going to relaunch that. Sorry, got to relaunch that question. Okay, I see results rolling in. Means it's working now. Thank you. And just a few more moments, a few more seconds here for this question. All right, thank you. All right, so a lot of reasons for using Pro and not using Pro. Excellent, thank you for all that. And here's my next question. It's not a polling question, but can you guess what we're going to talk about next? That's right, ArcGIS Online. So we just talked about Pro, our desktop product. Now let's talk a moment about what's new with Online. So first up, Online is a complete mapping and location platform itself. It has millions of users creating maps with billions of views. There's a lot of new improvements, particularly the new generation of the map viewer, which we are going to show and talk about. And it's important to remember that ArcGIS Online is that foundation for amplifying your GIS, allowing you to provide capabilities to anyone, anywhere, anytime, on any device. And story maps. There's a lot of new stuff with story maps. They provide the ability to create powerful and compelling stories, of course, combining narratives with maps and photos and videos and other multimedia. And over 1 million story maps were created last year, with more and more every day. The Story Maps Builder is our next generation storytelling tool, making it even easier to create a story map that has a mobile-first approach to design and performance. So ArcGIS Story Maps, of course, are powered by ArcGIS Online and are one of the most effective ways to amplify your GIS because anyone can really create these without much GIS experience. So needs and use cases were ever evolving and growing with ArcGIS Online, and many of the new apps and solutions that are created to help meet those demands, but the map viewer always remained the same. So our team created a more enhanced user experience with the map viewer, and Map Viewer Beta is the next generation map making tool for ArcGIS Online and Enterprise. It's built by using the ArcGIS API for JavaScript 4x. This supports more improved functionality and new features. It's fast, intuitive, and flexible. So let's take a look now at the Map Viewer Beta.
All right. Even though this new map viewer is still in beta, you have access to it and you can start using it today. And there are a few different ways you can access that new map viewer. If you have an existing web map like I have here, you can go to this little more pull down and choose Open in Map Viewer Beta. Or you can go up to your app launcher, which is up here by your login name, and you can pick it there. Let's go ahead and start a new map. You nervous? I know it's a big change, and it's a big change for us too. It's also an exciting change because this new map viewer has a whole host of new capabilities that are only going to be expanded on from here on out. So it has a fresh new look and feel, and it's been designed to provide a logical left to right workflow when authoring a web map. And on the left, we have the base tools like adding layers, base maps, saving, printing. And on the right, you have functions for refining those layers, like layer property styles, filters, and pop-ups. So let's go ahead and start by adding some data. I'll add a layer here. I'll go to my organization, and I'll use this layer, popular demographics layer. This layer is actually counties in the US with a lot of demographic information, and it actually comes from the Living Atlas, which is a big set of curated data that you all have access to, and I encourage you to take a look at Living Atlas and explore that a little in greater detail. There's a lot of great data there. Okay, so we've added this layer to the map. Let's change the base map. I like this dark gray canvas. It's a vector tile base map, and it's nice because I think it takes the emphasis off of the background and gives it onto your features, which I like. All right, and on the right side, let's go over here. You can see I have some characteristics of this layer. I could turn its legend on and off. I could change its transparency, and you can see how it just interactively shows me that. And also its visible range. What scales does it draw? All right, I'm happy with that. Now, I want to use this layer to try to answer a question about population growth and where people are moving and what areas are really growing quickly in the US. And part of the information in this layer is the population in 2018 and also the predicted population in 2023. Let's use that information to make some maps. Okay, so we're going to style this map. I'm going to pick a field. Now, I got a lot of fields, so I could actually now just type in a phrase here, and I can see that all the different ones that have that to filter that down quickly. And here I've chosen to draw things based on the current, 2018 population. And Smart Mapping has given me these counts and amounts by size. So the larger the circle, the more people in that count. These are counties in that county. But that's not really helpful for me in terms of understanding where there's real growth. So let's go ahead and change that from just total population. We actually have a field annual growth rate, and so we'll use that field instead. And instead of well, that's going to take a minute. Actually, you know what? I'm going to go back for 1 sec. Sorry, I want to just show one other thing. Let me go back to total population. I just want to show one new thing here in the new map viewer, and that is once this renders, the idea of dot density maps. So I can actually use a dot density map, which is new here, to represent the populations inside of the counties. And you get a sense of where the higher populations are, and you can actually change the dot, what it represents in terms of people, and the color of the dot, and all that. That's a great way to represent polygon data with information like counts inside of populations, etc. Okay, let's go back then to our annual growth rate. And that's, I think we saw that already Smart Mapping chose to give us a color ramp. And we have control over that color ramp, lots of different choices for the color ramp itself and how the colors are distributed through that color ramp. And this is showing me areas of high growth rate and low growth rate, even negative growth rate. And the fact is I'm not so interested in areas of low growth rate. So I'm going to filter this down to just areas of high growth rate. I'm going to use this filter tool. We'll add an expression. In this case, again, we're going to just limit this to growth rate over, say, 2%. You can actually see a nice distribution of the data. That's helpful for me. And I can actually slide this along. And as I slide this slider, you see the map updating, which is nice. So I can pick a value of 2. I could actually type it in here as well. We'll save that. And now we're only looking at areas that have high growth rates. Now, that doesn't tell the whole story because I'm up here in North Dakota, and these counties have high growth rates, but they're probably rural counties, so I don't really know how many people are involved. Could be a few people, could be a lot of people. That information isn't really shown in this map. So let's go ahead and add it. Now, I don't have an attribute that actually says change in population, but I have the 2 fields I need to calculate it. I have the, the predicted 2023 population as well as the 2018 population. So let's go back to our styling of the map. I'm going to add an expression. It's going to put us in an arcade. We're going to use arcade to write this expression, and I'll give it a name, and I'll give it a pretty simple formula. It's just the future population, future year population minus current year population. We'll say OK to that. And now that combines both the annual growth rate by color, and then the size of the circle represents how many people are involved in that. And if we go back to, say, North Dakota, we can see that while, yes, it's a high growth rate, not a lot of people involved. And then if we go farther over here to, say, outside Washington, D.C., we can see that we have a high growth rate and indeed a lot of people. So that's nice. Now, pop-ups have always been an important part of a web map. And it used to be that you'd have to choose what kind of pop-up you have. But in the new map viewer, we've given you more freedom and control over those pop-ups. So rather than thinking about pop-ups as a series of choices, you can mix and match different things in a pop-up. So let's go ahead and bring up the configure pop-up here. You can see I have a list of attributes. It's really just one attribute. But let me add also a text box. And in here, let me put some text. And when I apply that, you can see how it just updates immediately, which is nice. I can probably get rid of this attributes now because I have the information. So really, with a few simple clicks, I've been able to build a map that helps start to answer this question. Now, lots of different ways I could share this map. I could, in ArcGIS Online or Enterprise, I could put it in a web app builder application or a dashboard. But one of my favorite ways is to combine it with other media, maps, text, to tell a more complete story.
Tom, that's a really strong hint of story maps, right? So Tom is definitely referring to story maps. And in particular, let's talk about the story map builder. So story maps have always been available through ArcGIS Online for many years as a much used way to inform and inspire using stories that involve maps and locations. So over the years, the story maps team has made lots of incremental improvements to the experience by introducing new templates and of course improving on the existing ones. The past year though, the story maps team introduced something a little different. Actually, it's a lot different, right? And that's something different is the new story maps builder. This wasn't so much one of those incremental changes as it was a giant leap forward. So first, before I say anything else, just a quick but important note that the story map templates you know and love are not going to go away anytime soon. So the new story maps builder that Tom is showing here contains many capabilities from that classic storytelling template, but also there's dozens of new features, new capabilities being added with every new release. So the ultimate goal several years from now is to eventually combine all of the things that our customers like most about the story maps templates into one single flexible viewer. So Tom, maybe that's enough with the building and we can see one that you've come near to completion on.
Yeah, actually, I didn't have a chance to build. There was something going on with the logins there. I don't know if you saw it acting a
No.
little odd. So I jumped right to one that's been built with the new builder. And what we see here is this, when I do build this in previous seminars, I take a couple minutes just to build about a third of what you see here in just a minute or two. So what we see here is a nice story map with this image and some descriptive text in the title, some narration, and then here we have something called a sidecar, and we have this nice interactive map that we can work with, and some descriptive text. And as we move through, you can see how that map changes. And again, these are interactive maps, and I can click on things and interact with them. And in this one, we've added other media, pictures, charts, links to dashboards. We can embed dashboards as well. And then here is a slideshow, which actually will take me through the different places in a map and give me some narration about them, which is a really great feature. So pretty quickly, you can build a really nice narration and story map.
That's great. All right. So many of you kicked the tires during the Story Maps Builder beta period, and all those comments and ideas resulted in many of the improvements that you see here. So we do encourage you to provide feedback on these and other applications through participation in our early adopter program, and I'll cover that at the end as well. But we value the work and the input that you give us to create and develop the future of GIS with you. So thank you for that. All right, solution templates, moving on. So ArcGIS includes over 450 map and app configurations, collectively referred to as ArcGIS solutions. And these solutions are free and open. Technical support is included with your Esri maintenance. And when you're looking to solve a problem and you think our technology might be the answer, you can come here first. There's quite a lot here. And if you find yourself looking for a while, just reach out to your account team because we can suggest one that actually fits that workflow exactly or is close enough that we might be able to work with it. So these are an excellent way to quickly and sustainably amplify your GIS by rolling out new solutions with a low total cost of ownership. In particular, one example is the mission to support customers through daily workflows around coronavirus. So there's actually two solutions built for that right now. One of them is the coronavirus response solution, and the other is the business continuity solution. So the coronavirus response solution is about providing maps and apps around communicating the data in your particular organization. And then there's the business continuity solution, which is a collection of maps and apps that really turn ArcGIS into a system that helps businesses, utilities, and governments understand the capacity of their workforce and operational status, and of those facilities as well that are affected by the disease. So to have a clear understanding of the workforce capacity, facility status, enabling organizations to adapt and ensure that business can continue. All right, with that, Tom, I think we're going to switch it over to you. So you're going to cover the solutions page itself and how it's laid out and how things are organized, and also hopefully a little bit about the launcher itself.
Yeah, so we're looking here at the solutions, ArcGIS solutions page. You can see the URL there, solutions.arcgis.com. And here you can find all the solutions, and they're sort of organized into these different groups: local government, state government, emergency management focused, et cetera, et cetera. And if we were to go to, say, state government, you can see that then it's categorized into these different topics: fish and wildlife, agricultural, natural resources, economic development, transportation, emergency management, health and human services, et cetera. And when you click on one of those, you get to actually see those applications. And so there's really a lot of these applications, and you have access to all of them. And they really are helpful in getting things stood up quickly and using all these resources that you have available to you. And I'll just show you this also, this one that Matt mentioned, the coronavirus response. A nice set of tools really to communicate information to people within your organization, possibly the public, about cases and medical testing facilities and school districts that are open and closed, et cetera. Lots of tools in there for you to do. The nice thing is that all these solutions, the ones I showed you, including the coronavirus solutions, are deployed very simply and in the same way, and that's using this ArcGIS Solutions deployment tool. This is a free add-in for ArcGIS Pro, and it allows you to browse the catalog of those solutions that we're talking about and deploy them to ArcGIS Online or Enterprise organization. And during the deployment, the tool will create any items, groups, feature layers, maps, apps, surveys, whatever that the solution needs. And when you deploy it, you can then modify it to suit your needs, and you can load your own data into it if that makes sense. So all these solutions really can be deployed with really one click in ArcGIS Pro. And in the future, this will become easier. We have a plan hopefully by midsummer to allow you to be able to deploy any ArcGIS solution directly through ArcGIS Online or ArcGIS Enterprise.
All right, thanks, Tom. Okay, so I think people understand that, right? Like that these solutions aren't one thing. It's more about a workflow and then fitting whatever technology fits that workflow. So it might be a dashboard with Survey 123 with some other process, right? The solutions are the things that meet that workflow, and so there's quite a few of them in there. All right, we're going to come to our next poll question, and of course that one's going to be about our solutions here. So let me pull this up. And this one is also multiple choice. So we've shown you some solution templates. Have you deployed any of these solutions in whatever industry that might be? So if it's more than one, please go ahead and fill that out, and we'll give a minute or two for this as well. All right, maybe just a few more seconds here for the voting. Okay. Oh, still rolling in. All right. All right, I'm going to end the polling now. So it looks like it's slowing down. I'm going to share those results so we can kind of see. So it's a little bit all over the mix there. Local government leading the way, but it's interesting because some of these might fall into the two categories, which is why you can choose multiple ones there. But there you can see the results. How are we all doing? So normally we would take a little bit longer break and stretch our legs and have some real meaningful conversations that would lead to more conversations at the end of this. And also just take a breath, because what we just covered was really a small piece, right? We did Pro and Online and the solutions and some story map stuff. But now we're jumping into a same fast-paced kind of scenarios, and we're going to jump from the different agencies within a city or county to show what our technology does in relation to solving some problems and how it all fits together. We call it the section ArcGIS in Action, and we've formatted this a little bit differently, so we think it'll still work out. It's all done as live demos in the live presentation. For this one in particular, we have to use video for part of it, and we're going to talk through that, so bear with us as it's not quite as smooth as doing it live in person. But we're still going to show all of these same steps and reasoning behind why we're doing it, which is fitting these different agencies. And first up is law enforcement. So in law enforcement, individuals in this department typically don't have GIS training, so you really need to get them set up for success right from the beginning to help save them a lot of time. And there's two ways you can support the department. First and foremost is getting the data accurate by geo-enabling those records in the records management system so they can be then used for analysis. Secondly, you can showcase that data using a dashboard. And the first workflow we're going to walk you through is how to geo-enable that crime data. Then you can export it from the CAD RMS system and even set up a scheduled import of that data into GIS on whatever interval works for you. With this data, then you're now able to map and analyze and build some other applications. And we're going to switch over to Tom, who's going to show you how to get this set up.
Okay, give me one sec here. All right. Crime analysts work with a lot of data that can and should be mapped, and something that we hear quite often from analysts, it can take half a day just to export that crime data from their CAD RMS system, prep the data, geocode it, which are all steps that have to happen before they can even begin doing basic mapping. A lot of our time is spent preparing the data rather than using it, but with some simple tools, you have the power to make this workflow more efficient. If you can save your crime analysts some time, then they'll be able to focus more on analyzing data and keeping the community safe. Now, it's very common for a crime analyst to get an Excel spreadsheet like you're seeing here with new crimes, and they might get that once a week or once a month from the CAD RMS system. And this spreadsheet that we're looking at is from the Rochester, New York Police Department's open data site. It's a data for October 2019, has just under 700 crimes in it. Okay, I'm going to switch to Pro here. Now I have in Pro this crime analysis toolbar that you see at the top here installed, and that's a free add-in or plug-in to ArcGIS Pro. You can download that. The toolbar, it supports many different common crime analyst workflows, has tools for data management, tactical and strategic analysis, and investigative analysis. Even though this toolbar was designed for the crime analyst, a lot of these tools actually are useful even for non-law enforcement workflows, so I encourage you to take a look at it. Now, I'm signed into my ArcGIS Online account, and I've actually loaded up a web map from that account, from that portal, right here into Pro. And this map shows crimes from 2017 through September of 2019, and you can see it includes all different crime types. Now, this is a hosted service in ArcGIS Online. I need to update it with that information from Excel. It doesn't have to be hosted, but in my case, it is. Now, we're looking at about 25,000 crimes in Rochester. It's kind of messy, too hard to see. So let's actually zoom in to a neighborhood, the Maplewood Historic District in the northwest part of Rochester. And let's update our crime data and see if any patterns emerge in this area. Now, I mentioned the crime analysis toolbar comes with tools designed to support the workflows of your analysis, including importing and processing new data. So we're going to look at that tool, and it's called Import Records, and it shows up, it's right here, this Import Records tool. But before I can use that, I need to set up a configuration file for it. So we use this setup import tool to do that, and there are two options here. If you know your data already has location information, X and Y, Latin long, whatever it might be, then you use this from XY table. And if it just has addresses, use this option, which obviously would add an extra step of geocoding or turning that address into a location on the map. I know my data has XY locations, so I'm just going to show you quickly this configuring of that this configuration file that I need to create. I give it a name. Crimes. I'm going to point it to the source data. Where am I pulling data from? That's our Excel spreadsheet. And the target features is this hosted feature layer. It could be a layer in a geodatabase, an enterprise geodatabase, or file geodatabase, but here it's hosted. Because it's hosted, I have to give my credentials because I have to make sure I have permissions to update it. It stores a log, so I could specify where to write that log information. And then there are a couple other fields I need to fill out. One is this record identifier field. This is the unique value of each case in my case. And also a field optionally that has the date, and that would be my occurred date. Where the X and Y data live, in this case I have a field called longitude and latitude. Oops. Latitude. And that happens to be in geographic because it's Latin long, but you could be state plane or something. And how to match fields up to my existing data. And then I would save this. I've already done that, so let's go ahead and run this tool with a configuration file that I've already made. And I'm going to go ahead and run it. And what it's doing now is it's going through that spreadsheet and looking at all the cases and importing them in. If it finds a match of a case number, it looks at the date to see which is older or which is newer, and it updates it if necessary. That's so I don't get duplicate cases in here. And you can see on the right here, it's going through about 700, I said, so it's almost done. Okay, so that's finished. I'm going to refresh this map now, and also the table that goes with this layer. You see that before I did the import, there are about 24,500 records. And when I refresh this, you'll see that number change. You might see a change in the map. It might be hard to see, but let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so now you see there's 25,342. So those records have come in, and we can sort of prove that to ourselves by we'll have a definition query set up for just the October records, and you'll see that I have 691, which is what came out of the spreadsheet, and on the map, many fewer records as well. So that's good. Okay, let's close this. Now, I want to point out an interesting trend. So let's zoom to some houses on Albemarle Street. So we'll go to a bookmark we have for that. And I want to just focus on these 4 houses. The first 2 incidents of these 2 houses on the left side here occurred previously, but these next 2, if we click on them, we can see they actually occurred in that October timeframe. And that's kind of interesting, 4 in a row here. It could be a new pattern emerging, and maybe a criminal is surveilling the area and identifying easy houses to target. Now, crime doesn't happen uniformly, and since many law enforcement agencies are strapped for resources, you can use GIS to identify problem locations and more effectively deploy those resources while still having a huge impact on the overall community. All right, another thing I want to show you with this data, let me actually clear out that. Oh, no, I did. Okay, I'm zoomed in. Is something called data clocks. So data clock, let me go ahead and create a chart. It's going to be a data clock. Is a way to look at this data temporally as well. So we'll grab a date field, and we'll ask it to symbolize all the records in this data set with this data clock. And as you can see, the months are represented by the pie slices, and you can see them around the outside of the circle, and then the years are concentric circles starting with 2017 from the inside, 18, and then 19 on the outside. And it shows, it's a nice way also to see that temporal distribution of crimes. I can actually set it up to, if I want, just to filter this chart so it only shows me what's going on in a certain extent. Oops, a little far there. And as I update the extent, you see how the chart updates as well. So I can look at it maybe neighborhood by neighborhood if I want to get a sense of it.
Nice. So do this. This just took like a half day's amount of work down to a single click. And now we can take it one step further by using some automation.
Yeah, so you saw me run this geoprocessing tool to import the records. And I could, weekly come here and click that to do it. That's fine. But new at 2.5 is the ability to schedule these geoprocessing tasks. So if I click on that schedule link, you can see I can now pick how often I might want this to run, and maybe I want it to run on Mondays and Thursdays. And when I hit schedule, it actually will make it so it will run automatically for me. So that's really a great way to be able to make this even more efficient for our crime analysts. I also want to mention Some other things I want to mention: ArcGIS Insights, which is another product that offers powerful spatial and non-spatial analysis. We found that Insights is a great option for agencies that don't have a crime analyst, but do have a sworn officer that needs to do some basic mapping. And we'll go over an example of Insights a little bit later. It's also important to remember that there are people in your law enforcement agency that don't need to do analysis, but need access to the data for situational awareness. And web apps are a great way to do that. So I'm going to pop to a browser, and here's the map viewer beta again. And we're looking at that same web map that we're looking at in Pro earlier. And if I go to the bookmark that we were looking at before, you can see those 4 houses that we were just talking about. Now I can configure the pop-ups. I could add additional layers to this web map. I could use it in other applications like a dashboard. If I want, a lot of choices.
All right. So how many of you do use a dashboard? I think hopefully everyone's raising your hand. Everyone should be using a dashboard. They should be using more than one dashboard. It's a really easy way to get a quick view of the data, the status of that data, the assets, the projects that are happening. And command staff love dashboards because they give a high-level overview and can explore that data immediately. These dashboards can be used in briefings with teams, other stakeholders, as well as the public. So we're going to take a look at an example from the city of Philadelphia. That's what's behind us here. And well, first up, this is just for demonstration purposes only, the data behind here. But the dashboard gives a user a way to explore that data and ask questions and get answers. And as Tom's clicking around these different categories, information is updating dynamically. And here at the end of it, just clicking through a few times, you can see a high and low times for larceny over the last 28 days and a pattern starting to emerge. And that's the power of dashboards and why they're so helpful. Okay, Tom, I'm going to take it back over from you, if you don't mind. It's a nice looking dashboard, though.
Definitely.
So quickly, I just want to show that beyond what we've shown you today for this particular law enforcement demonstration, there's so much more you can do with ArcGIS to support that team. So many of the workflows have out-of-the-box solutions that we talked about that you can stand up quickly with minimum customization. The apps have been created by Esri staff that have a law enforcement background. And so I've highlighted some of these here and suggest you take a look at all these under the ArcGIS Solutions page. So in summary, we showed you how you can geo-enable that crime data, do analysis with it in Pro, put it in a dashboard, and then with ArcGIS, you can provide law enforcement with many, many ways to support the mission of the law enforcement team. Okay, we're going to move along to Public Works, and this is the one where I mentioned that we have to do a mix of video with the live demo, so I think it'll come across okay, but I apologize again that we can't do this in person so you can see me wearing the different hats of the Public Works Department as we step through this and get a feel for the different applications, because we're going to cover quite a bit in this one scenario. So first up, the street infrastructure is critical to the operation of a city or a county. And Public Works is usually the one tasked with making sure that the roads stay in good condition. They're planning for long-term maintenance activities to avoid more costly repairs or even replacement. And let's review some of the key roles in that department. So of course, Public Works doesn't function without its field crews, and the field crews are the ones out there spending time performing inspections, they're overseeing repair work, they're filling out lots of pavement condition forms, and then they're turning over those forms to their supervisor. So here's the supervisor. They're essentially the chief operations officer for the department. They report to the Public Works Director. They have frequent engagement with the city manager, the mayor, and of course, city council members. And their work is piling up because the city's growing. So there's increasing demands on that street infrastructure. And they're spending more and more time taking those reports that the field is filling out and then entering those into a spreadsheet, obviously taking a lot of time. And just because they're inundated with so much work, it's very hard for them to adopt new technology. They live by the "if it ain't broke, don't fix it" mantra. And here's the GIS manager. After meeting with the Public Works Department on both ends, the field and the supervisor, they see the struggles that they're dealing with, and they know there's an easier way to optimize those workflows for both those sides, the field crew, the office staff, the director, because everything they're doing is impacted by location. So for Public Works, though, to even listen to the manager, they know they must provide a solution that doesn't increase the workload, frees up time for the deputy director and the field crew manager, and helps those administrators make better, more justifiable decisions. So let's see a bit more.
Yeah, our field crews and supervisors, one sec here, aren't just sitting around all day looking for driving around all day looking for problems in the street. They need a more modern way to learn where problems exist. So let's look at a couple ways that we can leverage feedback from the public. And one is through Waze. Through the Connected Citizens program, cities and counties can form partnerships with Waze to provide and receive authoritative information in near real time. Citizens can report incidents like potholes, which can then go directly to Public Works in a dashboard like this. In fact, this is a live dashboard from the city of Lakeland, Florida. Now, likewise, the department can report upcoming road closures to Waze, which recognizes them as an authoritative source to the city and can update their map accordingly. And many cities and counties have a 311 system in place, and if so, it's usually easy to take the output of those systems and bring them into your GIS for further analysis and mapping. If your city or county doesn't have a 311 system in place, then there's a configurable app, a solution that available called the Citizen Problem Reporter, and it's optimized for mobile devices and provides an app for the public to report issues, and also includes an internal facing manager app that allows the supervisor to get a summary of those reports. So let's go ahead. I'm going to sign in here. This particular this application was set up to take all kinds of citizen reports, and you can see those here on the right. You can configure which ones you want to expose. But in our case, we're dealing with road problems, so we'll choose road problems none in my current area, so I want to submit my own. And again, this list that you see here of different types actually is configurable, and I can add more information here, like deep pothole. And of course, I can locate this by locating myself, or typing an address, or just clicking on the map. And then I could add a photo, and I could just report it. And that obviously could make its way then back into the Public Works system for people to act upon. All right, so we've looked at a couple ways that we can get information about where work needs to be done from citizens, but let's look at how a supervisor can prioritize these projects, and our field crew can update information in the field. Now, Public Works needs to be able to dispatch field crews in an efficient manner, and right now that's just done in a morning meeting, and the supervisor is likely not to see the crew until the end of the day. Workforce is an app that provides an easy way for supervisors to assign projects to crews and track their status. So here I am in Workforce as a supervisor or dispatcher, and I want to create an assignment for Matt, who's in the field. Let me go ahead and hit this Create Assignment button. Uh-oh, having some sign-in issues.
Well, this is where people would see me wearing the field crew hat, Tom.
Yes. Let's see if this cooperates.
And this is critical to remember that there's two pieces to Workforce. There's the dispatcher view, which Tom is showing now, and then there's the field view, which I'm going to show in a second.
Okay, thanks, Matt. So, right, I want to create an assignment. Well, I'm going to create an assignment of type PCI, which is a pavement condition index. Now, in terms of location, I can actually type in a location or click on the map. Okay, and I'll create an assignment there. I'll assign it to Matt. There's Matt. And we're going to give it a priority of critical. We'll make it due tomorrow morning at 7:45, first thing in the morning. And then optionally give it a work order ID, maybe give it a comment here. And I'll go ahead and create that assignment. And we're going to switch over to Matt in the field. And normally, as Matt said, we'd be doing this live with iPads and such, but that's a little hard for us in this environment. So we're going to show you a video and sort of talk you through that. So we're going to go ahead and get that started.
Yeah, thanks. So here I am in the field. I'm using Workforce Mobile on my tablet, and I have all this list of work that needs to be done. I'm acknowledging that the inspection that Tom just sent over to me. So Workforce is just going to give me that. It's the list of the stuff that I need to get done during the day. But to do the work, you'll notice if I go up here and I click on the option here, I can either navigate to it, so I'll use Navigator to get there, or I can survey at assignment. When I click survey at assignment, that's going to launch survey 123, which has got this pavement condition index form already filled out for me with how to do a pavement condition index. So you'll see this is a pretty large form. And again, it's an index. It's actually calculating something here at the end. So I'm going to scroll down here in a second through this Survey 123 form. Again, that was launched from Workforce. So as I scroll down, here's all the information you need to fill out to do a pavement condition index. At the very bottom of this form, you'll notice that it's already got a PCI score. That's the pavement condition score. So as I do my inspection here in the field, I'm going to click on a few things during my inspection that are required here, give it a road comfort rating. And that's, you'll notice the PCI score is now 62 once I've done that. So I've graded that a little bit. I can take a photo as well. Sometimes that's required for the work that I'm doing. In this case, it'll just be my screen here, the slides we were looking at earlier, and then I send that off. I do want to note that the image capture that I do, this has been configured to not just capture the date and timestamp, but also the PCI score with that image as I take it. I then send this back to the office, and now my supervisor has a record of the work that I've done. So here I'm going to send it off, and now we can see what that looks like back in the office.
Actually, this is a map of all the Waze reports that have been submitted by users in the past year, but we need a good way to assign this efficiently to our 5 field crews, and this is where the plan routes tool can help solve this problem. So I'm going to go into the analysis tools, so the plan routes tool, and I can specify things like, is it driving or walking, etc. Where do people start in the morning? So I might put a point on the map representing a depot, and then how many vehicles I have, or how many crews. I have 5. How many stops can they make in a day? We'll put a number in there, 60. How much time they spend at each stop. If they're filling a pothole, maybe it's 5 minutes. And then how long their day lasts. Now, depending on how many points you have, this has a credit cost, but it really is a great way to optimize it. And that cost is generally not very high. And once I have this, we can take a look at it. This has actually been run already for us. We can see the routes, the different colors there, and we can see the stops within each route. And they're ordered, hard to see the numbers, but they're ordered optimally to minimize time and distance. I send that then to Matt, who's using Navigator in the field, to do his work.
Yeah, so now I'm using Navigator, same tablet. I'm going to pick one of the days that I'm working on. Let's say today is Monday, and that's going to load that route that my supervisor optimized for me, right? So it's going to take into account all the stops that need to get done, put them in that optimal format, and now I can just go click Navigate and go stop to stop in that optimized fashion. And Navigator can do that on this one particular road network, which is why I want to do it. This one very specific date that I choose, the Monday, Tuesday route, whichever one it was. As I click start, it's going to route me, start me from where I am to the next stop, to the next stop, to the next stop. And this goes a little bit slow, but I want to remind you that this is Navigator, right? So this is just loading that and getting me to my next location. Once I'm at that location, I'm going to use Survey 123 just as I normally would to do that inspection or to do that qualification that I just finished that work.
Yeah, and all this information is available on an operations dashboard. So just like the dashboard in your car gives you an overview of the status of your car, this supervisor's dashboard gives them instant insight into the operations of their team. So when the public works director asks about the status of a project, or the city manager is being asked by a reporter what the city is doing to fix potholes, or a city councilwoman is being asked about what's going on in her district, they can answer those questions with authoritative information immediately.
All right, one more application to talk about is quick capture. So if I'm out in the field and I notice a pothole in this case that's not in my GIS, it's not on my list of potholes that need to get fixed, I can add that to my GIS system of record using quick capture. So in this particular one, it's configured to do 2 collections here, a small and a large pothole collection. So as I open quick capture, and this is going to capture it at speed, so I just simply click a button, and here if I do that, you'll notice in the top right here that as I click small pothole, boom, that's all it did to fill out a new pothole for small. If I hit large, it requires me to take a photo, and then, or it's configured to take a photo and then also put in some comments about it. So this one's a large pothole. If I hit submit, then it's going to go off, and you can see that up here in the upper right. But again, quick capture is all about capturing new data very quickly in the field at speed.
Now, keep your eye on that number of reports. Large pothole report says 18. So we're back in this dashboard, and I will see that come in just a minute. You'll see that number increment. So I get these automatic updates from this and from Matt and all the other field crews. So I'm the one who sees it, but I can make this available to the director or city manager. And this is a good way for residents to communicate. We've seen some ways for them to communicate back in the city, but really, street maintenance is more than that. It's understanding where you have issues in 3 to 6 months, and this is where GeoAI comes in. We can use images and videos gathered from the trucks of field crews, and through machine learning, understand where there are cracks and other road surface issues, which ones may need to be taken care of in the future. And that data we collect is processed using AI or machine learning tools. The field images are compared to a known set of sample defects. And we can take all that information and put it in a dashboard like this to show where we need to prioritize our field work. So with just that, we have a modern way to proactively to do street maintenance.
All right, we just showed quite a bit, but I do want to cover one I think good slide that captures the overall experience. So another great way to amplify your GIS is rolling out support for the entire field operations workflow. So we already know that many organizations are already using apps for collection, like Collector and Survey 123, but there's 4 other phases that can be easily supported by using other applications. So whether it's planning for the field work using Pro or online, or coordinating that field workforce and Navigator. I think a really important one is to manage and monitor that work in real time using Operations Dashboard. But there's also 2 new applications to call your attention to. One is Tracker for ArcGIS, which provides a way to see where your field workers are in real time. And the other we did cover quickly, which is Quick Capture. That lets you capture data as you travel with the push of a button, like a big button right there on the screen to just say, I'm capturing a piece of data as I need to. And so there can be many different configurations of that. I suggest that's one that I think a lot of people that are interested in field operations are really gravitating to, and it's one you should probably follow up with after this seminar. It's specifically designed to support at-speed, rapid data collection workflows, where those users are an extremely simple and streamlined way. So you can connect with your account team or look online for more information about that one. Okay, we covered quite a bit in that one public works section. We covered online portal, we covered the citizen problem reporter, workforce navigator, survey 123, and operations dashboard. But more importantly than just showing you those applications, what we did is we showed you how those applications are used to optimize a workflow that was already in place, right? So they were already doing that work. Those forms were already getting filled out. However, they were getting filled out in paper and then being sent to someone else who was then doing more work with it, right? And at the end of it, that took a long time for that full data cycle to come around. So by deploying GIS technology to this, we've improved how those workflows, those field crews are dispatched, how they collect that data, how the decision makers can see and analyze that information. And then of course, the supervisor's workload has decreased significantly, especially when it comes to answering those questions that the administrators are asking. All right, time for our next question. And this one, I'd really like to know, what are you using for mobile products? Have you deployed any of these? Are you using them now? And this is multiple choice as well. So please select more than one. I have my guess on which one is probably used the most, but let's take a look. And are you guys seeing that poll come up? Thank you. I'm going to relaunch it. You seeing it now? There we go. Interesting. I don't know why it wasn't showing up at first, but I'll give you a minute to answer this. I think one thing that demonstration we did for Public Works really shows is that there is quite a lot, and that particular slide on the entire phases of the field operations is an important one to have in your mind if that's something you work with. It's just that there's always more ways to squeeze more out of the technology you have. If you haven't used, Operations Dashboard, there's an easy one. If you haven't deployed Collector or Survey 123, there's more. So keep that slide in your mind, and of course we'll have this information for you after as well. All right, just a few more seconds here. as some more answers are rolling in. All right. Let's take a look at those results. There we go. So yeah, certainly ArcGIS Online and Collector and Survey 123 leading the pack, which I think is standard across the board. Certainly Survey 123, I think it's got a lot of, because it's so easy for people to adopt, it was one of the easiest ones to roll out, right? A lot of good stuff here. Some people using Tracker as well and Quick Capture. Good to see that one on the board as well. Operations Dashboard, folks, guys, everyone should be using Operations Dashboard. Should be a million of those out there. All right, that's my own personal goal, is to get everyone using dashboards as much as possible. All right, we're going to move on to talk about engineering. So before we begin, there's a lot of engineering departments in various parts of organizations, but do you know if they're using Autodesk products like AutoCAD or Civil 3D or Revit? So in case you missed it, there was a big partnership announced at Autodesk University just a few years ago. It was announced jointly between the two CEOs that this relationship was serious. And well, for example, by the year 2040, the Earth's population will be 9 billion people, 6 billion of those people living in cities. And this means that to meet that demand in the US alone, we'll need to build 1,000 buildings per day and spend nearly $3 trillion per year to build that infrastructure. So it's not only going to affect those buildings, but think of all the services and utilities that are going to be needed to support that growth. So users like us need to make sure that we have the tools we need to support that demand. And most importantly, those tools need to be simple to use and easily integrated. So our companies, we're looking at ways to streamline that whole process of plan, design, build, and operate those assets, all while putting data at the center and allowing users to use applications that they want to in their workflows. So whether that's Esri or Autodesk, the data and information needs to seamlessly flow between the two platforms to support this. So this is important. So what does that mean for you as the GIS manager or administrator? Well, it means if your organization is already using Autodesk products, now users of Civil 3D, InfraWorks, or AutoCAD can access ArcGIS Online or Enterprise. So they no longer need to share, or you no longer need to share a shapefile with engineers. This means you have the ability to give those engineers controlled access to your GIS system of record. So again, if your organization is using products, now those employees can access ArcGIS Online, wherever that is, allowing data and information to seamlessly flow between these two platforms. So this is huge, right? No longer having to share a shapefile with engineers and the problems that causes with actually sharing that way. So maybe we just need to show you how easy this is. All right, Tom. We cannot hear you, Tom.
Sorry, that was me muted. Apologies. Okay, so here I am inside of AutoCAD 2020, and I'm not an AutoCAD user. I'm not going to try to teach you how to use AutoCAD, but what I really want to focus on is some of the improvements to the ArcGIS for AutoCAD plugin, which allows for that streamlined connection of data between ArcGIS and AutoCAD so everyone can work more efficiently. Now, I've installed the ArcGIS for AutoCAD plugin, and I get this new ribbon here across the top. So let me go ahead and add some data. Now I'm logged in, as you can see, so I have access to things that I own that have been shared in my organization, my favorites, my content, and if we move over, you can see, even things that are available publicly. Let's start by adding some imagery. Now this high-res imagery is actually not a base map, but actually hosted from within ArcGIS Online, and if we zoom in a bit, we can start to see that nice crisp imagery come in. Let me go ahead and add some other data. In this case, it's traffic markings, and this is a data that's traditionally managed and maintained in AutoCAD by the engineering department, but here it's being drawn directly from the hosted feature service that's located in my ArcGIS Online organization. And if we take a quick look at that, if I zoom in, you can see I have those traffic markings. All right, let's add one more data layer, and that is the SOAR infrastructure layer. Now, this is a layer that is typically owned by engineering and might only be available in a CAD file, but this partnership really lets us bring that in and give access to the right people in the right way. So as Matt said, no more zipping up shape files and sending it around. All right, let's go here. Let me shut off the traffic markings layer for now. And let's move over, or zoom out a little bit, and move over this area of the map here. Here, we'll see that we have a sewer main coming down the street, which stops in the middle of the, halfway down the street. We need to extend it to catch these new service lines that have been put in. So I'm going to use some AutoCAD editing tools to add a line to a new pipe here. And let's go and look at the information about that feature. And what you're seeing, these attributes are GIS attributes, right? They're not AutoCAD attributes, they're GIS attributes. Not only that, when I actually say pick on material, I get to see that domain or pick list of materials right from the GIS. Now this is a PVC pipe, so I'll pick that, and I know its diameter, so I'll pick that. 8-inch diameter pipe, and I'll apply that edit. And the last step for me after I do my edits is to push those edits back up or to synchronize. So you can see here in my synchronize window, I've made one addition, but you can see it also looks at updates and deletions as well. And this is a manual process because I might want to do a lot of work and I don't want to push it up immediately. I want to make sure it's right before I push it. So we'll go ahead and actually synchronize that and push that up. Now, another place that you might want to look at this data is in a field worker having access to it. So let's take a look at this data in the collector app. Now, normally we'd run this on an iPad, but here I'm running it on my PC. And let me do this. Let me minimize this for a sec. This and this. Okay, so there it is. And here you see that sewer line that I just put in, and I notice out in the field that I need to put a manhole in here. So let me go ahead and click on manhole. I'll locate it, and I can change things like its cover type, 42-inch diameter, maybe its condition. It's new, so it'll make it excellent, and then I'll submit that. All right, now I'm going to pop back to the map viewer. Right, and you saw that, maybe you saw that pop right in there, the manhole pop in. But here I am in the map viewer, and not only do I see the AutoCAD edits, but I also see the field edits. So really, with all this going on, we've been able to give access and editing capabilities to the right people at the right tool, regardless whether it's Pro, online, enterprise, a mobile app, or now even AutoCAD.
Thanks, Tom. I think it makes so much sense when we see that actual demo, because when you talk about it, you know, it's one thing, and then when you see it's like, oh yeah, it really should be that easy to have data sitting in one location accessed by two different platforms, and that's huge. So just to recap, with this new partnership between Esri and Autodesk users can now update and manage authoritative data inside that system of record when given the right access. And additionally, the ArcGIS for AutoCAD plugin, they now have access to the data which they've never had before. So huge improvements. All right, let's move on to land records for a moment. And you know, this is another key one. So we know that maintaining land records is a process that rarely slows down. Certainly in a rapidly changing community, the GIS staff and the local assessor are constantly on the hook for entering those new deeds in a timely manner and managing those changes in property assessments. So I know in my community, and maybe your own, that I'm watching neighborhoods revitalize around a local brewery or a restaurant scene or something else. I'm definitely seeing old homes being renovated and changed and new condominiums constantly being built. So as the community changes, what does this mean for the staff workload, and how can we improve those staff workflows? So as GIS professionals, you have a role in this. So let's take a look.
Yeah, for folks that may not be aware, let me share my screen. And good. For folks that may not be aware, Pro now supports the parcel fabric for land record management, beginning at version 2.4. And today our goal is to deepen your understanding of this new technology in 3 ways: by showing you Pro's task-driven fabric creation tools, by showing you some efficient editing workflows, and by taking a look at Pro's new custom parcel types, which will extend land records and save you time. So let's go ahead and look at a place like Matt mentioned, in this case, Sheboygan County, Wisconsin, where economic development nonprofits are helping local small businesses grow. The first thing I'm going to show you is how to create a parcel fabric using the county's tax parcel polygons. Now, starting at version 2.4 of Pro, there's actually a set of tasks that's included with the installation that will guide you step by step through the process of migrating your data into a parcel fabric. Tasks in general are a set of pre-configured steps that guide you and others through a workflow or business process. And you can author them yourself or for use within your organization, or you can start by using the ones that Pro provides. And in Pro 2.5, we have a little pull down here where you can find those preloaded parcel fabric, and there's also some for network, but parcel fabric tasks. Okay, let's switch our map here and look at some parcels. Now, I already have the parcel fabric administration tasks loaded here in the task pane. And I've already run actually the setup of the information model, which creates an empty parcel fabric, as well as the load data into parcel fabric tasks using the Sheboygan tax parcel polygons. But let's take a quick look at the steps involved in loading the data. So the first step is actually to bring your data in, and it uses the append tool to do that. It loads those parcels into the parcel fabric, and it includes things like field mapping to make sure your data goes into the right place. Okay, the next step would be to enable the parcel topology, and then to create parcel records where you designate a record name field, which often comes from your CAMA system. And then the last step is to build the parcel boundaries. Okay, so here's the result. And we'll talk a little bit more about this. And let's take a look at this specific area here on the map, where we have a foreclosed home that's going to be raised by the city, and a neighboring brewery. This one here is going to expand into it. Now, a deed has been recorded that states I need to merge these 2 parcels. So I'll begin by going to the parcel records ribbon and creating a new record for this. And I'll give it an ID, and I'll specify the record type. In this case, it's a merge. We'll go ahead and hit create the record. Okay, and now we're going to go to the merge tool, and I'm going to select those parcels that I'm interested in merging, 1, 2. And I'm going to give that the new parcel a new ID, and we'll go ahead and do the merge. Okay, well, it's done, right? It did that for me, and that, I realize this is a pretty simplified example, but what's really exciting is what's happening behind the scenes in a parcel fabric. The fabric keeps track of the legal area of the recorded transactions. So let's turn on, also we can see by turning on this history layer that the parcel lineage was also maintained. And all of this was done automatically, which is pretty cool. Now, let me select some features here. I may do a whole day's worth of work, and I want to update that COGO information, the COGO measurements, and the annotation that goes with it for all the work I've done. So instead of doing it manually, I'm going to run a tool that will do it for me. And there is a COGO tool here to update. And I'm going to run that. And it's going to look at all these boundary lines, and it's going to update their information, their coordinate geometry information. And you can see how that comes in the annotation as well. And for the sake of today's demo, I only did a small area, but it's easy enough to do the whole thing. And it's really important to keep this up to date for not only my assessor, but also for the public.
Yeah. All right, that's fantastic. So I'm excited to see what we're going to show next, and that's about creating parcel types in Pro. So in Pro, you can now create as many parcel types as you need to, each with their own schema. So gone are the days of adding field upon field to your tax parcels to accommodate all possible parcels in a single base table. So this will save you time separately managing and querying all of your ownership and tax parcels, subdivisions, or condos.
And speaking of condos, with new development and redevelopment in our urban and suburban communities, we're seeing more and more multi-floor and multi-use buildings. Now, so far I've shown parcel editing in a 2D environment, but let's explore the new custom parcel types and the idea of vertical plats in 3D. Let's switch to this map here. And what you're looking at is a footprint of a new mixed-use condo building. And if we take a look at the plat for that, scroll down and let me zoom in just a little bit. You can see, it looks like a pretty standard plat, but here's the information about the base of it, and then it goes floor by floor. And one thing you might notice is it has information about the lower and upper elevation of every floor. Okay, well, with the new parcel fabric, we can actually have this condo parcel type that includes fields for that floor, lower, and upper elevation. And if I were to say identify a feature here, you can see that in my condo type, I've got that floor number and upper and lower elevation. Okay, so we're only looking at this in 2D, but I can actually use this little range tool. It's been around for a while, I may not know about it, to actually do some filtering of it. So I can look at the second floor based on those attributes, the third floor, the fourth floor, and you can see that it's easy just to look at the different floors one by one, or we'll see, and we can do it in a range as well. And I'm looking really just at the parcel polygons, but I could look at the condo, the lines as well. And they have that same floor information and elevation, but it's kind of hard to look at this way in 2D with all those 3D stuff. So let's use the full power of Pro and take a look at this in 3D instead. Okay, so we're looking at, I've used a simple extrusion of lower and upper elevation values to represent this entire vertical plat in 3D, with the interior commercial spaces labeled and colored in dark blue, and the tan for residential, and that light blue polygon you see extending above the building is actually the air rights, which is important to planning agencies. Now, I can use the range slider here as well, and here we can look at individual floors, 9th floor, 10th floor, etc. I could look at a range of floors if I want, and I could also filter these out just to be, say, commercial, if I just wanted to look at that through a definition query. Lots of tools to use here to visualize this data. We'll shut off the range. Now, I can also change the symbology to represent the individual commercial units by their assessed value. Let's do that. And that gives us a whole different look, a whole different way to gain some insight into this particular condo building. And speaking of, for the assessors to look at that, speaking of those assessors, they spend a lot of time here in spreadsheets with thousands of records. And because of that, they really need a better way to gain insight into identifying outliers, patterns, to make better decisions about property assessments. So let's pop over to Insights for ArcGIS. And this is a web-based tool to let us explore our data, visualize our data, and do some analysis. And this one was created by an assessor. And it includes a few different visualizations of property sales information. You can see the number of sales, sales by price. Let me turn on the layer here that actually shows us. Come on. Do that again here. I don't know why it's not drawing. Let's see if we zoom in if it draws. A slight hiccup there. Not drawing our points. Let's see if we can re-symbolize this, if it will. Something went wrong. Let me reload this page. See if we can get that working. There we go. Okay. So I just turned on that layer for sales and parcels, and that's a lot of dots, a lot of points. Let's maybe change that from just points on a map to a heat map and get a general sense of the patterns across the city. I can also look at these and look for sort of key indicators. And one of the things that's a key indicator that might be interesting to look at is this idea of a sales ratio. High sales ratio actually gives us a sense of where there may be or have been foreclosures. Now I'm going through all these attributes I have from the CAMA system, and one of them is the sales ratio. So I'm just going to pick it up and drag it and make a chart called a box plot. And this shows me the distribution of sales ratios. And I'm really, sort of interested in these outliers. But I also, let's just grab this foreclosure field, which is sort of a yes/no field, and let's make a map of those foreclosures. And you can see on the map that symbolized in gray or sorry, in orange are the foreclosures, and in gray are the not the foreclosures. What's really gets interesting now is the ability to go to, say, this box plot and click on these outliers up here with a high sales ratio and see how the other cards change. So I'm going to click on it now, and hopefully you saw the heat map change, and you also saw this map change as well to highlight those features that have that high sales ratio. Turn it off and turn it back on. You can see how it changes. That's pretty cool, the ability to really interact and work between these cards to see how things are interrelated. Now we've looked at sort of the where, but let's take a look at the when. I have the sales data for year and month. I'm going to drag it into a chart, and this time we're going to, oops, sorry, drag it into a chart. Make a heat chart. We've seen heat charts earlier. So here we have the month of the sale and the year of the sale, and then the darker colors represent higher sales volumes. So again, we can see the distribution of sales, and we can also then click on that again, and we can see how these potential foreclosures are distributed, and maybe there's a different pattern that we want to look at. And the other thing that's really cool about this is you saw me do some analysis and ask some questions. All this is being recorded in what we think of sort of as a model. So you can see all the different steps I took to make the box plot, to make the heat chart. It's all being recorded, and I can save this model. I can share it with other people who can then use it with their own data. And obviously I can tweak it here as well. So that's really a really great tool, Insights, for doing this kind of analysis, and it's all being done in a browser, and you don't need a lot of GIS knowledge to make that happen.
Awesome. Thanks, Tom. All right, I'm going to go back to sharing my screen if you don't mind. I'm going to take over
Yep.
from you. And on our journey with land records, we started with the idea of that growing community and focused on how they could efficiently manage the parcels using Pro. Then we discussed how Insights could benefit the assessors by identifying outliers and patterns in their data. I do want to point out that, like you mentioned it there at the end, that there was in a browser, but most importantly, if folks didn't quite get that at the beginning, that this was data that is normally just in a spreadsheet, right? So combining that spreadsheet data and some data from their CAMA and Insights, you could immediately see and explore a whole bunch of new things visually, right? You created a map just by clicking on the data and bringing it in and saying, I want to see a map, right? You took points on a map and made them a heat map. That's kind of the ease of use with Insights. And again, taking what you can't see by looking at a spreadsheet and putting it in Insights, you can explore it, you can see it in different ways, and then you can, of course, share that model at the end. So a lot of power there at the end with just Insights. So beyond thinking about how it was applied here to land records, think about how it could be applied to you as well for whatever your workflow is. All right, we're going to take a deep breath, or I'm going to take a deep breath at least, and we're going to go into wrapping up the seminar and come to the end of it, right, with some what we're going to call closing and call to action. For this, I'm going to outline some key resources for you to consider with this whole idea of amplifying your GIS, and some links. I'm also going to talk about the regional Boston hub, which is the one that supports, the Boston hub supports the region we're here today, but there's going to be one in your area as well. So the hub site will be where some of this information is. So I will get to that and point that out specifically in this, but keep in mind that the links I'm going to show you are available on the local regional office hub. So first up is, the geospatial strategy. We've shown you many different uses of technology, but technology alone isn't going to solve anything without a plan. And we call that plan a geospatial strategy. This is the link to the actual document if you wanted to go right to it. But if you're daunted about where to start with putting all this together, this document here is a great read to help inspire you to aim really high to maximize those capabilities that GIS can provide, and then work through it. So the first document that I think is really important to piece all of this together is understanding the geospatial strategy document. Next up, we have what we call the best practices document. This is updated a few times a year, and we know people download this one quite a bit. We've had this rolling for a number of years now, and it's always being updated a few times a year. And reason it's being updated is, well, things change, right? So this is best practices as things change, as new technologies and new processes are developed. But this will cover those 4 facets of GIS with people, data, process, and technology. Very important document. Best practices document is the short title for it. And let's also talk about community and lifelong learning. I think this is a really important one for a lot of folks that are here on this call, and of course, continuing as you want to be a GIS professional. One of the great ways to ensure continued and long-lasting success is with personal growth through lifelong learning. And we do that through a variety of ways. You know, we do more than just create software. We also focus on professional development for you and trainings through MOOCs and books of various kinds. There's a lot of ways to help you understand how to craft this technology. Other resources we have are the student use and personal use license. There's unlimited e-learning. There's blogs, podcasts, webinars like this one, social media, of course. There's periodicals like Arc News and Arc User. There's also certification for those of you going after that. And of course, there's the GeoNet community, which I really shouldn't downplay at all. That should be maybe forefront here on the list as well. Lots of information through GeoNet, through Esri and other users. Another really important community to be familiar with is the early adopter community. So if you want to have a better understanding about what the latest releases are and what updates there are that are coming out, we encourage you to join this. And you can also be the first to test out those new products and capabilities and give us feedback before they're launched. All right, this is the hub site. So every regional office hub in the US has their own hub site. And this is meant as a two-way engagement platform for you to connect with your local Esri office. So it's beyond just there's the, Esri.com, the big corporate, there's a whole bunch of information there. The hub sites are specifically around who's in that office, what are the things that are happening in that particular region area. So you're going to see news there that's specific to that region. You're going to see applications that are from that region. The documents that we talked about today, the best practices document, the geospatial document will be here, as well as some of the videos that we didn't show here in this seminar, but we would have shown in the face-to-face seminar. All of those resources are on the regional office hub sites. Today I'm showing the Boston Regional Office Hub site, but there's one for other offices as well. So be sure to visit those sites and sign up to follow it so you'll get updates about the events and the news that are happening in your area.
Hey, Matt, just worth mentioning
Yep.
also, because this is this seminar is sort of focused around Connecticut and Rochester. Connecticut GIS as a group of users, NEARC, our Northeast user group, Northeast ERISA, right, and the Western New York regional. I'm sure everyone has regional user groups around wherever they are. So really, be part of that community.
Yep. Thanks, Tom. And there is a new community on GeoNet specific to coronavirus. So this is an important one. If you were part of situation awareness or part of building those resources for your community, there is this new GeoNet community for coronavirus that would be very important and beneficial for you. And I do want to capture real quick, we did talk about the coronavirus solutions, both the response solution and the business continuity solution a little bit when we talked about our solution offerings earlier. But there's also the coronavirus hub template initiative. So there's a template for a hub basics site. So if you could stand up one on your own, bring in your own data and have your own hub site for your organization. And then there's the larger Esri COVID-19 hub, which has more resources, lots of different examples from all over. Some people might have seen that, but here's the full link if you wanted to check that out. So there is a lot of our time, and Tom, I know certainly yours, is responding to coronavirus right now from either local government, federal government, or state government folks, but also there's private industries now, and specifically that business continuity solution fits that. So a lot of folks in Esri are working severe overtime to help folks understand this technology that's out there, help put these resources together. So a lot of it is already combined here, which is a good outreach. But GIS technology is definitely being used to fight and combat this problem we're facing, as well as communicate with it. So I've got a couple poll questions here, if you don't mind, and we're coming right to the end, just a couple poll questions and then one final sort of one ending here. So let me go ahead and launch it. First question is simply on hub. So have you deployed a hub site? I'll give a moment for this one. Lots of answers still coming in. All right, answers still rolling in. I'll give it a few more seconds here. All right, looks like enough folks have rolled in. So it's a interesting split. So majority have not, but it's about 20% have deployed a hub site already. And there's a second question here I want to ask, which is specific to COVID-19, which is, have you deployed any COVID-19 solutions? That's whether that's our hub, our dashboard, or other applications. Okay, thanks for all the votes coming in. Leave it up for a few more seconds here. At least give it one full minute. All right, I'm going to go ahead and end the polling as it looks like folks have stopped responding. Interesting mix. Looks like more people have deployed our COVID-19 solutions than just deployed a hub solution, which is interesting and I think really good news. Of course, a lot of people I think are taking advantage of the dashboards and what they offer for responding to COVID-19. All right, very important slide here. You know, this is going to capture everything we've sort of done and talked about today during the seminar. So whatever our short-term and new normal goals are, I think there'll be many decision makers for whom GIS was a foreign concept before this, and now they're recognizing the importance of the work that you do. And to make a difference, a bigger difference in your organization and your community by amplifying GIS, you know, increase the benefits, get the most out of it, out of the technology you already have by expanding it to new users. Those are things you can do today. You know, as you leave this seminar, and you've seen some of the new things we've shown, you know, you can deploy it to new users and you can get more folks and make your GIS bigger and greater. The other thing is to think about the technologies we showed today that you haven't used yet. So take your GIS to the next level by deploying some of these new things that you saw today to again, increase or amplify your GIS. And of course, I think the biggest thing here is, if you haven't done this already, is to increase the likelihood of success by creating and executing that geospatial strategy. So you can get help with this from either Esri or our partners, but that'll be a key step to making sure that you're more likely to have success if you have that strategy to follow. So these are certainly uneasy times, and I think it is encouraging to see so many workflows amplified by GIS through this pandemic. We're seeing agencies come together who haven't really had to collaborate before. We're seeing a lot of new sharing groups being created, and people who've never used GIS leveraging those data sets and applications that are now out there. That's with either new technologies or old and existing ones. So I think that's really encouraging, and certainly I think all of us that are in GIS recognize the importance. So building these applications that are available to you to help support this, I think expose the importance of GIS and make it greater and better to those folks that haven't been exposed to GIS thus far. So I definitely want to thank you for being with us today. I'll thank you on behalf of everyone that's on the call, from our moderators and from Tom. We appreciate you taking the time out of your extra busy day to participate in this, to fill out those poll questions that you did. Feel free to spread the word about the other seminars we have coming up that will be this same content. Following this webinar, we will send you an email to the recorded webinar that is this session. We're also going to give you a link to the recorded full version of the seminar in late April. So after all the seminars are over, there's ones for the in-person videos, if you will. We're going to make those available in late April. So thank you again so much for everything. I think it was still, with what I saw from the questions coming in, the response in the poll questions, I think we were still able to bring the community together. I don't have any coffee left. I don't even have any water near me now. So if not, I'd cheers you and say, again, thank you so much for being on this call. If you want to stick around and ask any questions in the chat window, please do so. We'll leave that open for a few moments. Otherwise, have a great day, and thank you, everyone.